Okay, welcome to 1000 Ways to be a Champion for Children. My name is Alan Friesen. With me is my co-host, Carola Friesen.
Hi.
We have two guests with us, Iso and Chelsea. We're going to have a great chat. What this show is about creating awareness about adverse childhood experiences and then encouraging adult survivors of adult childhood experiences to address that trauma, to try and make that less of an impact in their life so that they can enjoy the best health possible, and to prevent adverse childhood experiences for children today and children in the future. So that's why it's past, present, and future. So Iso and Chelsea are champions of children of 8th degree Dan black belt champions of children. Is that right? Am I exaggerating there?
I think that's probably a bit accurate.
It is. It's accurate.
I would
Nice.
describe this thing. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Thanks, Iso. Yes. So why don't you ladies tell us something about programs that are available? Well, wait a minute. How do you describe, and when you're describing adverse childhood experiences to somebody for the first time, how do you describe that?
For myself, I tend to describe it to people under the age of 15, so teens and kids. And for me, it's just anything that you remember kind of being yucky in your childhood, or anything that made you probably a little bit sad or angry, or just didn't really feel right.
Right. Any situation where there was something that was off-putting or that sticks with you, kind of thing, long after the incident had occurred, right? So yeah, cool. Chelsea, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, I mostly work with adults. So when we have the conversation, it's usually when we're first meeting and they've come looking for help. And I have a really behavioral theory of change. So we talk really about how the brain is impacted from the second it starts developing, from the second neurogenesis happens. And a lot of people don't really know that. A lot of people aren't really aware. They just know about the personal impacts, and they take things to heart, like they blame themselves for a lot of things. And I find sometimes if you can bring more of that perspective, a brain-based perspective, it's pretty enlightening for people.
Yeah, you bet. I think one of the keys for helping adult survivors of adverse childhood experiences is that they become aware that it wasn't their fault in any way, right? A lot of times a child will have an experience and they believe it's their fault, and they'll believe that for the rest of their lives until they address it and kind of say, well, no, how was that my fault, right? I had a caregiver who had problems, right? That's really the issue. So yeah.
Absolutely.
What was that, Chelsea?
I said absolutely.
And Iso, did you have anything to add to that part?
I think for myself with kids, I try to kind of explain it as though you're building a Lego house. And so just to add on to Chelsea's notion of really trying to highlight that with trauma comes brain changes and kind of a lack of a healthy brain. And so for kids, I try to kind of explain it as a Lego house that some pieces are maybe taken away, and how those missing pieces in the future might then kind of impact them with relationships or their feelings or the things they do or things that they don't want to do but kind of keep doing anyway, things like that.
Got it. And the Lego house is like their brain. Is that what you're saying, right? And these these parts have kind of that makes good sense. Yeah, that's good. So I know Carola may not be able to stay with us all that long. So Chelsea, I really wanted to try and understand brain spotting. So why don't you tell us what brain spotting is and who you would do that, who you would help with that, who would be a good candidate or a good patient, a person that would be effective for.
Well, brain spotting can be used in many applications, from intense trauma to even performance issues, right? If you're just lacking motivation or want to feel more performance in certain areas, you can use brain spotting. The person who developed it was a practitioner of EMDR and somatic experiencing. And this person, in EMDR, you do eye tracking, and this person noticed that when he slowed down the gaze, he was able to enter specific areas for people that are really impactful. And so brain spotting really works on eye positioning. So where your eye is positioned, and you try to access activation in your body. So it works with your body and with your brain. So what you're trying to do is access subcortical emotions, so in your emotive brain and your body at the same time, so that you can process them in the moment of the session.
Interesting. So where that emotion and physical pain are together, is that kind of where, like, yes?
Yeah, so you track the sensations in the body, you track the activation. So what's happening for you. You don't even necessarily have to have specific scenarios or specific words. You just have to feel the activation. So whether it's your throat closing or your chest tight, and then you track how intense that sensation is, and then you sit with it as you gaze at a spot. You can either gaze at a spot that's highly activating, or you can find a spot like a resource spot, to create more safety. That's the scenic route. If you're doing the real activation, it's more, it happens more quickly, but for trauma survivors, sometimes it's a little much. So I often go with the resourcing route just to maintain and build trust with people.
Cool. That's very interesting. I have tried EMDR, and I thought it was like, it's a brain hack. I thought it was really valuable. I very much enjoyed it. And I actually don't have any ACEs, but I kind of looked at it from the other way. How could you use this as a tool for personal growth and development? So instead of envisioning the negative thing and making it less significant and smaller in, smaller, diminished in any way, it's kind of, we took the positive thing we're trying to create and put more emphasis and more focus on making that bigger and more connected to me, right? Mm-hmm. So it was cool. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I think, well, what I try to tell people is that, there's lots of things that have impacted every single human on earth. We're humans, right? So there's never been a pregnant woman that had a perfect pregnancy. There's never been a perfect mother-child bond. Like, we're human. Things get in the way. And our brain is really dependent on environment. So our brain, it's going to meet a certain structure, but things get in the way to interrupt that. So we all share that. We're all in this together. We all have something. And whether this happened pre-verbally, so you can't really put words on it, but everything that's happened is in your body. And EMDR, brain spotting, and some mindfulness techniques, somatic techniques, those are the techniques that really try to access those spots and points in your body.
Yes. Very valuable tools, that's for sure. ISO, you are the queen of, I start talking to her and she goes away. We have a little connection issue with ISO for right now, but that's okay. Chelsea, back to you for just, ISO's back. You disappeared on us for a minute. Oh, are you with us?
She might be frozen.
No, it looks like she's frozen. We'll see when her lips start moving again, and then we'll get back to her. We were just chatting before we started the call about now you've got more funding, a bigger funding envelope you're providing, and the need has never been greater for people needing help to navigate through this COVID storm. And so what do you do, Chelsea, for your personal self-care? What keeps Chelsea functioning at her best every day? What do you do?
Well, I have a really great group of friends, which has been a little bit difficult with COVID, connecting with friends. I meet usually every Wednesday night. I meet with a women's group, and we do lots of self-care in our group. Dance. For many years, I've had a dance troupe, and that was probably the single most self-care thing that I could have ever done.
Yeah, I can believe that. Oh, Isa's coming back on with us. There she is. Hey, I was just, no worries. I was just going to ask you a question, and also you just kind of disappeared on me. The question I was going to
I'm happy
ask
to.
you are the queen of acronyms. I remember you telling me all kinds of chill being one of them. Choose how I live life. I love that. So if you come up with any new acronyms, new programs in the last little bit that I don't know about yet.
In the last little bit, no, but I will say to look out on Family Ties and their website for programs to come in terms of group content and some programs for adolescents based on chill and kind of how to keep chill with COVID. What's COVID chill? What might that look like? And how can they kind of achieve that?
Yeah, cool. So are there the programs now in these times, like, because for a while they would have stopped entirely. Now programs are back, but only in like a Zoom type of or video type format. Is that correct?
No, we see people face to face.
So for me, I was thinking of a group program, for instance, kind of run by Darcy, one of our clinicians, that she's offering both face-to-face and online. I think we're trying to mix in an average or a nice kind of mix of both to keep that transportation and access benefit that online gives, but still help people kind of get back to face-to-face interactions being normal.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, like, at least there's for some people now, this is actually an advantage, right? If travel was an issue for them before, transportation was a problem, but computers weren't, or a decent Wi-Fi connection weren't, they can still get pretty good access. I mean, this kind of exchange is pretty valuable. ICE probably going to check out on us again, but come back. So.
I'm hoping not to. I was going to say decent Wi-Fi access is definitely losing my words here. It's not easy to come by.
Yes, exactly. Yes. A very nice thing when it works right. So, yeah.
So starting with Chelsea, if someone's looking for some help, how do they find you? Like, if I wanted, how would I find you?
You can call Family Ties.
Okay. So
our number.
I guess what I'm asking is, if I'm out in the community, how would I know that you're out there as a resource?
Well, you can Google counseling. We're on Psychology Today. Family Ties comes up. And we do have a website. And we haven't been that great at marketing historically because we've been really an agency that subcontracted to children's services. Okay. And in this past couple of years, we've really opened up our services to the public. So we're just having some, time to grow and learn how we can interact with the public in the best way possible. And we're just in our infant stages of that.
Okay, that sounds good. And ISO, how about for you? Are you also in the same place?
I would say I'm in the same place. You can find me at the Family Ties website and contact me through our referral or calling the office.
Cool.
I think that's important for people to know.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yes. So, and we're trying to make more and more awareness about resources that are available because everybody's, going through the same thing. You didn't hear this, I don't think, ISO, but Chelsea and I were chatting before we started, press the live button. And I was chatting with this lady and I thought she had an excellent analogy. She said, COVID is a storm, but we all have different ships that we're in. Some of us got battleships, and some of us got yachts, and some of us got canoes, and some of us are just like treading water and hanging on, right? And for the people that can slow down and can spend more time in self-care and can, maybe their pace of life is a little bit slower and a little bit more relaxed. And their income's good, and they don't have, their exposure to COVID is low. They're in pretty good shape, right? This is good times. But if you're stuck in a house with somebody who's your abuser, well, that's a real big problem, obviously. So, yeah. I know for our victim service, we'd had a dip down in calls but it's because of people, there was no point in calling because there's nowhere to go or no solution that could happen, right? So,
yeah. Isolation for sure.
Yeah. Bruce Perry is I'm a big fan of Bruce Perry. He's like amazing, eh?
He's great. And when I worked at, what did you say?
He's very knowledgeable.
Very knowledgeable. Yeah.
I said it's eligible.
Eligible. ISO.
Yeah, when I worked at Children's Services, I brought the neurosequential model training to the investigation team, just so we could learn a bit more about that, because Hull Services in Calgary does a really good job. They've been working with Bruce Perry for many years, and they do any child that's brought in their secure services or for treatment, they go through that program. And then when they're released back to either their biological or foster parents, they have a really good idea of some interventions that have worked within the treatment and that might work outside of the treatment. And he goes right back to the beginning and tries to find the location and the time where this trauma occurred, and he likes to treat it from that exact vantage point. And he's not afraid to do things that other people would really shy away from.
Yes. The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog is probably my favorite book ever. I mean, it's so, those kids had such horrendous abuse, but with the right interventions and with somebody actually listening and paying attention, they had great, well, all except one. There was one maybe is going to not turn out good, but everybody else turned out good. So that's pretty amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that little girl who watched her mom be murdered.
Yes.
His story with her, he really just laid right down on the floor with her and cuddled, no therapy. That at that time, especially, that was quite controversial, for a male therapist to do that. So I quite appreciated his perspective a lot. He's been a major part of my integration of all the things that I've learned. Bruce Perry's floating around in there for sure.
Yeah. Yes. It made me think of a lot of his
Born
interventions.
to Love is another one of his works.
Oh, I'm sorry, Isa, what was that?
Oh, I was just saying Born to Love is another one of his works.
Yes,
that
really
I
good as
recommend.
well. Yeah, that Born to Love, another work with Bruce Perry, and the same, what's her name? Maya? He has a co-author. Yeah, that sounds right.
Something of that nature, yeah.
Yes. So he has a co-author as well, but 2 books, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog and Born to Love, both amazing books. In Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, a lot of the treatment modalities had to do with movement and music, right? And that's what, when I was asking you about your self-care and you were talking about dancing, I'm doing the same thing. I'm thinking if that works for treatment, I'm going to do it as a prophylactic practice, a little bit of dance and a little bit of music. And it's been serving me very, very well. So, Iso, what are your self-care routines? What keeps Iso at her best?
Lately, laughter is something I'm really depending on. So I took a course with Kathy Malcordy about creative ways to foster expression of kind of trauma and rhythm and laughter, and kind of tricking your brain into a self-laugh exercise every morning to just spark it with dopamine has certainly been one of my new tenets, as well as actually dancing too. So I have a wiggle time every morning to try to get some rhythm and balance in my brain.
Yeah, no, I think those are great.
How much of that was audible?
It was all audible.
Yeah, the last bit broke a little bit up, but yeah, and now your picture's frozen. Whoa, she's moving again.
Well, what's interesting, I am a child of ACEs, and when I was a child, I often would go in my room. I loved music, and obviously I was self-medicating in a way because I would dance, and I would probably started that when I was 8 or 9 years old, and it must have been a self-medication type thing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Just that bilateral stimulation is so soothing.
Yeah. So every once in a while now in the evening, she will dance with me. So I'll do my dancing. The morning is exercise, and the evening is just for fun if she's up for it. So yeah. But she walks outside and does 40,000 steps a day feeding horses. So sometimes she doesn't feel like it when I've been sitting around all day waiting for her to come in. So yeah.
And Alan, what's your go-to song for dancing?
You know what? I've been doing the Wii thing, and I just go through all the songs that are on the disc on the Wii thing, and then so it shakes it up. That that one actually, that Toxic by Britney Spears. I really listen to that song. And
That's awesome.
It just kind of, there's one, it kind of has a nice rhythm for one of the moves in that song. So yes, I shouldn't have admitted that on when we're live here, but yes, that's a song that I like to dance to. So
the one we dance to all the time is the Justin Timberlake.
yes.
What's that called again? Something feeling.
Yeah, it's a really good dance song.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, sounds good, Isa.
I'll be right back.
All right, sounds cool. Sounds cool. So, do we have actually Kelsey, a link for like the family ties programs that are available that we could show in our little chat thingy?
Just let me see the Family Ties website. I'll just grab it. I just think it's.
Yeah, there is a chat thing here, so I should be able to put it in there. And it's just familyties.ca or something, isn't it?
Yes. We haven't really updated our website too much with all the new programming. Very recently, we have been able to update our playrooms in the base. So we got 2 new offices downstairs on the main floor of the building that we're in. And we devoted that entire area to play therapy. So we have a lovely grant last year from the Rotary Club, the Sunrise Rotary Club, and more grant funding this year as well to create 2 amazing rooms, furnished and supplied with all of this newest, greatest play therapy toys. And so we're pretty excited about that. It's up and running right now. We're just tweaking it and decorating and adding things to the second room. The second room is going to be an ISO brainchild, a chill room. It's for the older kids, maybe 9 and up, and the first room is for the littler kids. So
right.
She's been doing a lot of research and sending us links of things to purchase for this room. So we can use it right now. It's just not at its fully best. It'll probably be done in about a month.
Yes.
Cool.
And it's great that there's a focus on the older kids as well, because some schools of thought are like, oh, that's too late, you can't make any difference. But you can always make difference, right? There's neurogenesis that happens until you die, right? So
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was saying
neuroplasticity.
Okay, yeah. I have a theory that like up till 7 or 8, you're kind of acquiring who you are, right? Like and then it seems to me like for a lot of people I know, the teenage years are the most traumatic, right? As far as if you're not having trauma at home, just your life in that time, right? And I kind of consider that your consolidation, right? If right, if you acquired ideas about who you were, and if they weren't very good, they seem to kind of get consolidated later, right? So I think you can change it, right? You can change that acquisition in that consolidation time kind of thing, right?
Well, you can even change it now, right?
Well, I kind of consider the consolidation time goes right all the way till you die. It's just probably the longer you wait, the harder it gets.
Absolutely. It can be quite difficult, but I think once you start unlocking those keys and getting in there, and there's various ways that you can do that, it becomes easier.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope this is better. Hi.
That seems better.
To the basement.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm pretty close to the router.
Nice. So Chelsea was just telling about that your chill room is getting constructed and furnished right now. That's pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm. It is very much so. We like to shop.
Because that's been, what, 3 years in the making?
So we actually had made the sunset room and then got another grant for the chill room. So this one has been about a year in the making, Chelsea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. they thought like the hopes and dreams were there for quite a while, but we're a not-for-profit organization, right? So we're always hustling for money, trying to get things going. So we, you know, we have been gifted quite a bit this year, which I'm so grateful for. And even if this doesn't continue year after year, I think it's going to help us get a foundation and a presence here in Lethbridge that we can just keep growing from. So I'm quite grateful for that.
Excellent. And you said the Rotary Club of Lethbridge Sunrise were so generous as to fund that. Nice.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Those Rotarians, those do-gooders.
Yeah, I know. Aren't you one of those guys?
They're an interesting kind.
Yes. So we were just, when you were away there, ISO, we were just chatting about that, you know, you've been kind of focused more on the older ages from the kid side than other people are. And there's still great opportunity there, but it's been kind of a little bit of a neglected area because most people say, wow, it's got to happen at 3, 4, 5, 6 kind of a thing, that when you got to do these interventions. But it makes a difference later on. And Carollo had just shared her little about acquiring in and consolidating that, you know, you have this acquisition period and then a consolidation period that extends longer. But then the longer you wait to address things that have been consolidated that are harmful for you, the more difficult it becomes. Right. Did I describe that right? Yeah. Okay, like that. So cool. Makes sense.
And that's a really interesting analogy. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of the experiences that you have as a child and how they then lead to your personality, which doesn't develop until you are an adolescent, but people often think is kind of set by the time you're age 5 or doesn't happen magically until you're 21 and kind of just forget the in-between period.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
When really all the events that happen to you are, they either, like if you've been told negative things and then you perceive more negative things happen, right, it's going to start consolidating that as part of you.
Kind of creating a self-conscious bias even. And yeah, the way kids might tend towards a more risky group or an emo group, or perhaps just kind of isolate themselves overall and feel as though there's not worth or value in even trying to connect with others and get that sense of health.
Yeah.
Cliff Ely has come and made a comment. Hey, Cliff, good to hear from you. Cliff is on our Rotary Club committee called the Champions for Children Committee. And so Cliff is one of the participants on our little committee. So, yeah.
And he said, interesting discussion.
Yes.
He said, yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, Cliff.
There was something I was going to, I know what I was going to ask Chelsea. Chelsea, well, both of you know this, I'm sure, are fairly excited, I would think, about Bruce Perry and Oprah doing their book coming out here pretty quick, right?
I never even knew that.
Really? March 9th, they're launching a book about it specifically. And I saw just a little blurb where Oprah was talking about with, I don't know, I was on a show. I'm not sure what, I'd never seen the show before. But anyways, she was saying this is a game changer. This like changes everything, right? So somebody with her influence and profile and passion, man, she could make a huge difference in getting the word out about ACEs and addressing ACEs, right? So yeah,
absolutely. Well, that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good news.
Oprah's taken over Bruce Perry.
Next, Brene Brown, and then we'll all be healed.
Oprah has Brene Brown already.
All 3 of them together.
Yeah.
Pretty soon he'll have a TV show like Dr. Phil. And
hopefully. Because it would actually perhaps be more useful.
Yeah, he's amazing. I'm a big fan of him. Wow. So, and then when you made reference to the body keeps the score, and that's what's his name? Bessel Van
Der Kolk.
Yeah.
Man, that was a really good book too. I really learned tons from that book. So yeah. And then I took a thing on addictions with that Dr. Gabor Mate. That he's amazing. So yeah.
Have you read his book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts?
In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts?
Yeah, that's.
Would you recommend it?
I certainly would.
Yeah.
Almost all of his works, but In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts goes through some stories of addicts and kind of helps to solidify and explain perhaps how addiction is a brain disease and not a choice perhaps, and kind of explain to others as to how one might be able to have 5 drinks in a night and somebody else might have those 5 drinks but not be able to stop, and might then have their life impaired, and how it's not a simple choice to kind of just not stop.
Yeah. And he says all people who have substance abuse problems have suffered abuse. All of them. Not everybody who suffered abuse becomes addicted or has a substance abuse problem, but all people with substance abuse problems have become or have been abused, right? So, and of course, in our neck of the woods, being on the ancestral grounds of the Blackfoot Nation, and all of the intergenerational trauma that we tried to beat the culture out of them for 150 years, and still trying, exactly. Not as blatantly now, though. That's progress, ISO.
Yes, I appreciate that positive mindset. Progress.
Right.
Still trying, acknowledging.
Yeah, it's going the right way, anyways. But the intergenerational, the trauma that, like, where people normally have trauma, well, that's been for 5 generations. There's been trauma, right? Or is it more? I think 150 years of 6 generations. They use 25 years per generation, I believe, on their statistics that way. I think so. Yeah. So our demand here is huge, right? Big demand. And how do you kind of keep up with that demand and make the huge? How do you stop that intergenerational trauma and racism from continuing, right? So
that's a real big focus of our agency right now.
Is it
just trying to wrap our agency brain around how are we going to become an inclusive, healing-centered, anti-oppressive agency where people actually feel safe. So that's a learning that we're going through at the moment.
Yes, yeah. You both took the Brain Story certification, that program throughout. Yeah, okay. So under that program, when I took it, one thing that really kind of twigged for me was the part about the traditional First Nations ways of raising up kids, like making good humans for their tribe. You know, they had all these kind of set events and set milestones that, here you're entering the prairie chicken society or whatever, and here's this and here's that. So they had a very much a kind of a sequential way that these are the steps you follow to be a good human kind of thing, right? And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if their traditional ways would be something that would be healing, helpful for all kids, for First Nation kids and white kids and black kids, and if that was a tool, that traditional tool that could be applied and would resonate with and assist with everybody, that would be amazing, right? And I think it'd be a big healing type thing.
It would. It's actually interesting you say that. And a friend of mine who is Dene from the Northwest Territories has been really immersing me in her Dene laws, which are very beautiful and simple things like share what you know, work in the day, sleep in the night, love each other as much as possible. I cannot remember the rest, and I don't want to miscode any, but I will say that as I've been working to build a chill room and really just as Family Ties has been growing, we've been really trying to focus on actually integrating those simple teachings to actually allow the indigenization to be implemented instead of just kind of lip service with the TRC or just something that we say we want to get to but don't actually ever achieve.
Yeah. So there has to be some kind of serious movement forward there to make a huge difference, right? That's got to happen. So that's awesome. And those kind of connections, I've been trying to learn more, and I haven't. My guest 2 weeks ago was supposed to be Sean Singer, and he's the executive director at Sikokitoki. And what I want to talk is specifically about this topic. So it hasn't happened yet, but Chantilly Prairie Chicken is in an episode in March, and hopefully that'll come together, and then we'll learn about that. So I'm thinking that would be a really valuable discussion in terms of how do we end intergenerational trauma for First Nation people, and part of that has to be how do we reduce the racism that's fueling the intergenerational trauma, right? I think those are both tied together, is the way I'd see it. Does that make sense?
For sure. Awareness is always the first step, kind of knowing. being able to identify it.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to heal from something that continues to happen.
Sure. I mean, how would there be hope if there's something that's continuing to happen? You know, if it was even lessening, right? At least there's some hope, I guess, in that. But if it would stop and then you can move forward, well, then I can see where then healing can really go, right? Can really be fueled, right?
And we often, we often blame the victims and put the onus on the people in our culture. So the dominant culture, the colonizers, often put the onus on the other to heal. And I think that nothing substantial is going to happen until those that are the colonizers do their own healing. That includes ancestral healing and our own ancestral trauma. You know, our people have done things that impact down the line to us today, even though you continually hear Caucasian people deny that fact. I think that it's time for reckoning, and it's time that we do our own healing and quit demanding that the other heals.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I think it's just we're the first time I heard somebody tell me about residential schools, I said, no, that's not true. You don't understand that didn't happen in Canada. And then holy shit, that did happen in Canada. And not only did it happen in Canada, it ran to what, 1996, I think it was, when the last one closed.
Some would say it's still going right now in CPS. I would be one of those people.
Oh, is that right?
Perhaps. If you look at the number of disproportional children of Indigenous background that are children in CPS versus white Caucasian, I'm sure Black children might be, or African American children might be also disproportionate in there. But I do recall seeing, especially Southern Alberta, Indigenous children tend to populate the CPS systems or the group homes act.
Yeah.
As though we can't allow the culture to heal them or their family to heal them.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw this. I don't know the name of the person who did it, but it's called Step Into the Circle. And this woman goes into a penitentiary and has all the inmates out in the yard. And then basically just with a microphone says, if you were ever, told every day that you were worthless, take a step forward, right? And this group, all these tough big men are getting closer into the circle as they're going, and some of them are crying and some are saying, this is like the best thing that's ever happened to me, that I can like tell my story of what happened. So the people have the shittiest lives, and they get the more and more penalties on because the intervention, the correction, the help doesn't come, right? So so it's there's lots of room for improvement. That's the way to look at it optimistically.
Well, I'm optimistic of the generations to come, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, for sure.
I'm a Gen Xer, and we have so much to learn, right? And I always find, like, when I feel like something might be taken from me is when I need to stop and listen. Because life is moving forward. Things are changing, and we need to step aside and let them change. And I'm hoping, I have tons of hope and faith in the generations that are coming up, that they're going to show us a different way.
Yeah, me too. Hi, so you had something to add?
I think you just got chills from Chelsea's words about when she feels that she's has something to lose is when she needs to stop and listen. It was just insightful. I think it kind of says a lot in itself in terms of what I view to be a kind of large roadblock to healing in the concept of white fragility. And as you guys kind of talked about, white guilt or shame, or the discomfort that comes up in the thought perhaps that years of injustice might now be your problem to fix, or you might be the sole individual who might be kind of blamed for it, and wanting to back away, kind of like the bystander approach.
Yeah. I have a comment to that, but first, Mandy DeCheco Colababa says, these ladies are brilliant. Kelsey, can I come in that supervision?
She sounds good.
We missed supervision today, Mandy. I was shopping.
You would probably-
I love her honesty, though.
I think you might appreciate this. Let's see if you like this or not. I have another show that I do on Thursday nights with Daniel Zapula. Do you know who Daniel Zapula is?
I'm trying to know who he is.
You don't know who he is?
Nope. Could you tell us?
Yeah, sure. He's a preacher, and he's the heads up a number of different charities that do a lot of humanitarian work here and in Africa, a lot of it as well. He's from Africa originally. And anyway, so we have a show on Thursday night called The Hope-a-Fires. And with the Hope-a-Fires, it's audacious optimism. That's what it basically is about.
Nice.
And so with the Hope-a-Fires, we have a shared dream. And the dream is that we have this amazing vision, and we see every human being on the planet at the same time. 7.6 billion. We see them all at the same time. And, obviously there's differences. Some are black and white and red and yellow and, small and big and male and female. And, there's all those differences. But there's pretty small. We're all human beings. And of course, we're human beings have and always will be until this race ends. We're human beings. But there's been times when people weren't regarded as people. People who looked like ISO 500 years ago, a guy like me made up a rule and said, well, you're not a person, so I can do whatever I want with you. And people are First Nations folks, 150 years ago, a guy like me wrote some kind of rule and said, hey, you're not a person. We can take your lands. We can do whatever the hell we want. And maybe 100 years ago, you two as females wouldn't have been people either, right? Like, wouldn't have been persons. And guys like me have been holding the pen writing this stuff. Guys like me should not have the fucking pen, right? It doesn't make sense. Like, wow, there's a lot better things that can happen. So,
someone just might jab you with that pen.
but the thing,
That's probably Gen
I should have cussed too. I apologize.
Gen Z.
I apologize for my cussing. But the point,
Oh no, you said it well.
the rest of the dream is this: that all of these 7.6 billion people, we've got these small differences in what kind of gods we believe and what kind of food we eat and things we wear. We got these small differences, but we're all human beings. And all of these human beings right across the whole world, they were healthy. That'd be amazing, right? They had enough water, they had enough food, they had shelter, they were all healthy. They were all hopeful. In their eyes, you could see there was hope. And they were all helping. They were with the deeds they did and the words they spoke, they were helping for themselves and others. So these 3 H humans, helpful or healthy, hopeful, and helping. And so this is our shared dream for what we would like to see. And who knows how quick that could happen. I mean, really, food, you only need like 5 to 6 pounds of food a day, a human being.
Well, we just got to start sharing better.
I agree.
Or stop charging for what the land gives us freely, perhaps.
And people have to stop hoarding money.
Toilet paper.
And toilet paper.
Yeah, there's got to be a better way to get this done. I mean, if let's pretend for a moment, and I think this is true, that we are all spiritual beings who are having this human experience, right? So if that's true, perhaps the role that we're supposed to be doing is helping the other humans who are having this human experience, because we're all spiritual beings and we just want to get through it and with as much as possible. What's that, ISO?
So the land's providing, so it's already kind of giving us that fundamental help. Yeah. No need to compete.
Yep.
Yes, I agree. So that is kind of the that's the show Hope-a-Fires, which is a lot of fun because we have the crazy things. The first episode, we talked about food insecurity, and basically we made up a fake news story that 2 real smart people, Dr. Zach Bush and Dr. Shavana Shiva. Yeah, she's an Indian, she's like Mother Earth kind of a woman, and that they kind of come up with this way to create food security for the whole world. And then the second one, I was going to do something about water. So I start researching this. There's this Dr. Askwar Hilonga, professor doctor in Africa, that's made this nanofilter. This one nanofilter costs $150, and a family of 20 can have clean water for 5 years. That's like,
nice.
Amazing. So anyways, he's on a project. He wants to be a billionaire because he wants to make a difference in 1 billion people's lives. So I just say, wow, that's amazing. So when you're talking, Chelsea, about people now and there's hope for the future and that kind of thing, you know, people like that he wants to be a billionaire to help 1 billion people. Like he'll make more than $1 billion as well, of course. But like the focus is on doing it to make a difference in people's lives, and the rewards will be the rewards. Like they'll be always enough, right? So
it's pretty great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, Alan. Thanks for sharing. I'm gonna find that story.
No problem. No problem. Yes. So what else should we share with the folks? Let's say that you are feeling stressed out right now. You know, you don't know if you got enough money to buy groceries. Life is hard. There's challenges in your life. What would be one thing that you could do? Would you'd recommend for somebody that they could have a better day tomorrow? What would that be?
Well, the first thing I would do is just be okay with the bad day. I think a lot of times we're chasing happiness unnecessarily, and we could stand to just accept and acknowledge what's actually going on. I feel like with COVID, a lot of us are doing a lot of it's fine, it's okay, it's not a big deal, when really it is. We're having to grieve many, many tiny things on a daily basis. We've had things taken from us, we've lost things, big and small, right? We've lost people we've loved, we've lost school for some kids, dance, like activities, friendships, social gatherings, weddings, all of those things. And everybody's just like, it's fine. Well, not everybody, but the norm, right? So I think just accepting that it's actually not fine. It sucks. And to allow yourself to grieve that, I think would fulfill more peace. Instead of actively being against the state of grieving and sadness, and rejecting it, just accepting it.
Yeah, this is not a good day. I don't feel in a good place, but it is what it is, and I'm going to get through it, kind of a thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that. Do you think that's a helpful statement when you talk to another person and say, "Hey, you got this. You're enough. You're going to get this done." Do you think that's a good thing?
Sometimes, you know, I've said it, and, you know, I was talking to somebody, and I at some point said that they were worthy, and that statement really impacted. They came back and told me months later that was one of the most important things that they had ever heard in their lives, that one short statement. I think you have to read the room, right? If you're pepping someone up at the wrong time, it's equally not as good. So I think you have to be a little nuanced with that approach, that positivity approach, because it is true. Everybody is inherently worthy. Every single person on this earth, no matter what they've done, is inherently worthy. And if you can deliver that message in a very sincere, impactful way, and the timing's right, for sure, I'm down with it 100%.
Got it. But if it sounds raw, when somebody is in their grieving type of position, kind of a thing, it may not be helpful then, is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yeah, just like pull up a chair and curl up beside them, right? And be okay with how they are.
Just be with them, you're saying, ISO?
Sit in the shit with them.
Yeah.
Help them.
Yeah.
Make a nice, healthy seat in there. Kind of be okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bring snacks.
Bring snacks. Good idea. Okay, you've never gone wrong with that. Especially the chocolatey kind. Man, I've been eating schwack chocolate lately, I'll tell you. Whew. But
you're gonna bring chocolate snacks to sit in the shit, Alan?
Well, maybe.
That might be a little bit dangerous. I don't know. What if you drop one?
That's true. Good point, ISO. Good point. And how about you, ISO? Do you agree? If you know, is that how
I agree with everything Chelsea says. Always.
Always? Okay. First.
Always. Always. And so to build off that, I would try to tell myself a message of I'm still worthy by turning to somebody around me and kind of allowing the love or allowing somebody who I care about to remind me that there's still good in the world. There's still a connection. I'm still alive. I still have the ability to complain and worry. And I still have, I'm sure, probably a home to be then worried about not filling. Still have heat, water,
Yes. Yeah.
all the other things.
There's a song I like to sing by Paul Thorne, and the lyrics are, I'm still here. I made it to another day. So that's his declaration. He made it to another day. So that's reason to celebrate that by itself. You know, there's always hope if you're here. So yeah.
Still alive, still breathing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I like the theory of 1%. If you have to do something, you know, if you're feeling highly unmotivated and quite down, you can do something that makes 1% of a difference.
Yes. Like 1%, that there's something you can change in your life, 1% that's going to make tomorrow a better day, kind of a thing.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And those could be pretty small things, right? It could be getting shutting off the computer a half hour earlier, or you're setting your right. That could be a big gain, right? And maybe getting a little bit more sleep, or right, or choosing different. What's that?
Brushing your teeth.
Brushing your teeth. And your partner would be pretty happy about that brushing the teeth one too. So. I know I'm not very popular if I haven't had a shower for a couple of days. Things don't go well around here. So.
Ooh, even after the horses. Oof. That says something, Alan. Okay.
Okay, so ISO, do you have any other suggestions for what you would suggest to somebody to make tomorrow 1% better?
I think the idea of kind of manifestation or just self-fulfilling prophecy, being able to state that tomorrow will be better. So today, as Chelsea said, like today might be complete shit, but I really believe tomorrow will be better.
Yes.
And allowing that in the universe to kind of allow tomorrow to be better, really believing.
Yes. Yeah. Do you ever listen to the folks that talk about, like, you know, the frequency you're at in terms of your brainwave frequency being in
very much so recently.
Yeah. And does that resonate with you? Do you think that makes sense?
I think it does, in terms of your brain being impacted by sound, and the fact that we talked about rhythm kind of earlier in music and how that's able to change mood and create a whole different kind of reality for us. I think that frequencies / the different frequencies of love and happiness and serotonin, definitely resonate. You
too, Chelsea. You're down with the frequency making sense?
Absolutely. And I think like it's in our language, right? Like we talk about vibes. And everybody knows what, you know, there's some low vibes over there. I'm not vibing with that person.
Yeah.
We all feel it.
Yes. So I've been playing this thing. It's kind of the serotonin dopamine release music to get you in a place of, you know, love, peace, harmony, beauty, gratitude. So why not? Hell, like I'll give that a try. It's very relaxing, nice little music playing in the background, kind of a thing. And if that gets you more in that mindset of, you know, peace and gratitude and joy, that's a lovely thing. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I was just thinking about kind of the frequencies and even tone of voice too. And if somebody's kind of yelling at you, and how that frequency of their voice is definitely going to impact your brain differently than if they're speaking to you in a lovely and kind of sing-songing voice. Just things like that.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. No, that can make a big difference by itself. You bet. So you're all about like just kindness and sunshine for everybody, right?
And a little bit of teasing, of course.
Laughter. Exactly. Actually, ISO had paid me the highest compliment once just after we met. She said, now you might correct me if I got it wrong. She said, of the old white dudes, you're probably pretty cool. Something like that.
It was a good rating. I did. I had said that of many old white men I've met lately. You know, Alan, you're pretty cool. You get it. That you shouldn't have any of the power currently, and that your time is, you know, kind of passing. But that you also allow that. It's the awareness.
That's good.
I
My
was gonna
memory's still
say,
working. I remember
I
how
knew
that
you
worked.
used that quote. I knew it. I'm gonna make you a badge the next time I see you. An
Sounds
okay
good.
old white man. Okay. Alrighty.
Cool old white guy.
I also said that we should bottle up Alan for volunteers and kind of just perhaps put it in water of some meetings.
Yes, I'm actually trying to get more focused on my volunteer stuff. I gave up a bunch of things so I can focus more on reducing adverse childhood experiences because I have made a commitment that for the rest of my life will be the best of my life in terms of my contribution that I will make. I've made some volunteer things in the past. I've helped out a bit, but I'm going to get a lot more focused on it, and I'm going to make a bigger difference. That's
very cool.
So I'm excited.
With that being said, Alan, I will remind you that with a non-for-profit organization that Family Ties is, we always welcome those who want to champion ACEs in your way.
Nice. Well, if I could do it just by standing in front of my camera and talking, I'll do it. I got more capacity for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, in your ability to touch different lives and all your different shows, we appreciate.
Well, it's a lot of fun too. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah. I'm one of the people in this COVID storm. I am like in a yacht. It's just like smooth sailing. I got time to. I've been doing way more meditating. I've been doing more body scanning. I've been doing more courses. I'm in 3 courses right now. I've taken a number, but I'm in 3 of them right now at the same time, and just learning tons and having so much fun because my space is slowed down a little bit and I want to focus more on what kind of difference I can make. So yeah, it's been good. Exciting.
It is exciting. I like that you can identify that you're somebody who sits on a yacht, but still see individuals around you. I think awareness is good. I'm happy also that your yacht's comfy.
Yes. And I know there's people that are having it tough, and I want to be able of value to them. But I'm certainly very grateful for for my health and just the comfort that I have and the privilege that I now recognize that in the past I never recognized. When people talk privilege, I have to work hard, blah blah. It's like, no, I have privilege. Yeah, I get it now. So yeah, it is invisible to those who have it. Privilege, I've heard, and that makes sense.
And that's why you get the badge. Well said.
That's gonna be on the badge too.
That's why you get the badge.
That's why I get the badge. All right, cool.
Well said.
Nice. Thanks, April.
No problem. Thanks, Alan.
So, did we screw this up when you were gone, ISO? It's familyties.ca, right? Is that correct? Is that the website where people go to find about programs?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, good. And then, so they'll go to the find programs there. And so find people, Chelsea, ISO, and the rest of the Family Ties team are there to deliver programs to assist you. If you are somebody that you can identify, ISO was saying, it's just like, you remember an icky time. You remember something that made you uncomfortable. You remember something that still clings to you a decade later, 2 decades later, that you address that and have a little conversation somehow, some way. In my case, I found a little trauma, little tiny one. And I think my mom said 2 things to me that were hurtful that stayed with me for a long time. So, and I don't blame her. She said a million things that were all good and, be a good boy, Alan, and you're doing great. But there was twice when I think she dropped the ball. So I think that's pretty good out of all the time I spent with her. But
good enough mom. That's what we hope for.
Yeah, exactly. But when I go back and I address those, that immediately made a difference in my happiness right away. They just said, yeah, that's a false belief. I believed it when I was 5 years old. It was not right when I was 5 years old. Mom was having a shitty day when she said that. And then now it's just like, okay, good, boom, done. I'm good. I've solved that part. I feel better because of that. So if you have something in your life that is a self-limiting belief, something that made you feel small or worthless or hopeless or helpless, then that's something that if you talk to a professional and get some assistance or read some of the great books like A Boy Was Raised as a Dog, or take the Brain Story certification course, it's free through Alberta Family Wellness. There's opportunity for living a better life. There's opportunity for making changes today that can make for a better tomorrow. So ISO had also mentioned some of the 1% changes you make, and Chelsea was mentioning it as well. Anything else we want to tell the folks?
Just to highlight that right now, with the thankful Alberta Mental Health grant we also can offer some pretty reasonably costed to free sliding scale counseling as well to help address any of those traumas that Alan was mentioning or any of those feelings of ickiness.
Excellent. So Family Ties is where you can go to find the programs, and Chelsea is one of their team members. ISO is one of their team members. They do fantastic work. They are champions of children.
Fantastic team lead. I'm sorry, my queen. Our fan.
All right. And thank you, ladies, for hanging out with me and having a chat.
Thanks, Alan.
All
right. We'll see you.
Take care.
Thanks for the patience.